Hello friends, again I am today before you with the model answer of yesterday's question. So now let us see quickly what was the question given yesterday and what can be the appropriate answer for that. So if you remember, the question was, how can emotional intelligence be developed and assessed in civil servants? Suggest institutional strategies. So basically, the question is quite direct question. Uh, that how EI can be developed and assessed in civil servants, but you have to suggest institutional strategies. So this is the question. So basically, you have to directly answer to the point because there is nothing beating around the bush for this question. You have, but only thing you should know what to write. So now let us see how this question needs to be, and this has to be answered in 150 words. So first is very briefly little introduction for emotional intelligence. What is that? What is intelligence? Emotional intelligence, and uh, how? I mean, what is the need for its cultivation and assessment? So that is described in very few words, and then uh, development strategies have to be institutional development strategies have to be enumerated, and then how the it can be assessed through institutions. So this is what has to be written straight away. So now let us see what can be the answer. So emotional intelligence, the ability to perceive, manage and respond to emotions. Ability to perceive, manage and response to emotions is increasingly critical in public administration, where officers face moral dilemmas, social diversity, and high pressure environments. Unlike cognitive skills, EI must be cultivated and institutionally assessed. So, what is being told here is how important EI is for public servants, and then stress is that it should be cultivated and assessed institutionally. So now let us see what are its development strategies, institutional development strategies. What are they? Now, first point is curriculum integration. So this was recommended by second ARC also. So that also has been quoted. Second ARC, that training should include that. So accordingly, it has been written. Training academies like Lavasana should incorporate EI focused modules. So basically, this was the recommendation of second ARC also, and uh, Lavasana has already incorporated also to some extent. So, but again, since we are recommending, so we have to recommend the same, that this has to be done in training academies, like, because Lavasana is one. There are some state academies also, state training centers also, where trainings are given. So accordingly, it's written training academies like Lavasana. So there are so many. I mean, every state is having one training academy for civil servants, and IS officers also go for training, weekly training, monthly training. So I mean, short-term training, long-term training. So these kind of trainings are there. So therefore, the EI has to be integrated in the curriculum. So EI focused modules needs to be prepared for training academies, covering empathy, conflict, de-escalation, and ethical leadership. So this has to be done. Second point is experiential learning. So programs like Bharat Darshan is done during training itself. Many states also, they do state darshan, because once a civil servant joins that state, particular state or particular service, they also have their own acquaintance program, so that he can move around in the state and he understands the whole thing. So immersion programs like Bharat Darshan, community engagement, and disaster simulations develop empathy and emotional adaptability. So experiential learning is also another institutional intervention. Then third is peer monitoring and feedback, because structured mentorship from senior officers promotes real-time learning in self-regulation, emotional resilience, and people-sensitive governance. So this is another institutional mechanism can be prescribed, that peer monitoring and feedback. Fourth is mindfulness practices. So reflective techniques such as meditation, journaling, and guided emotional debriefs enhance self-awareness and composure. So these kind of things also, uh, whether in training program or in normal routine, also enhances EI in an officer. So these are few which can be listed. Then now we come to assessment mechanism, because two parts of the question are there, if you remember. One is development of EI and second is how it can be assessed. So assessment of EI. So assessment mechanism, situational judgment tests. So this is one technique which has been mentioned. Second is 360-degree appraisals. This is again another technique. Third is behavioral events interview. This is third technique. So basically, these are some techniques which have been mentioned to assess real-time emotional and interpersonal response of the concerned officer. So this is for the assessment. Situational judgment test, 360-degree appraisals, and behavior event interviews. So basically, these are, uh, I mean, internationally renowned techniques for assessing EI. Many foreign universities, foreign institutions are also practicing this. So this can be recommended as assessment mechanisms of EI in civil servants in India. So these are the three techniques we have mentioned. Now, let us see what else we can be mentioned. And next is annual confidential report. That is called APAR, appraisal report. Annual performance appraisal report. Now, this can be reformed to include behavioral indicators such as empathy, emotional maturity, and team leadership as part of holistic performance evaluation. Now, as I understand, for some services, for some civil services, it has already been done. For some, it is in process of being doing. There are some state civil services also. So, this suggestion we can definitely give. For some, it has been done. Some, it is in the process. Some needs to be done. So, the suggestion is that APR should be reformed in such a way that it includes behavior indicators also in performance appraisal. So this is another institutional mechanism. So the question itself says institutional mechanisms you have to recommend for assessment and development. Same thing we are doing. So besides institutional, there may be some other mechanism also, personal, voluntary improvement of EI, voluntary training, all those things can be done. But here only institutional, we have to ask question is institutional mechanisms asking. So we are recommending that only. So institutionalizing EI ensures that civil servants are not just technically competent, but emotionally intelligent leaders capable of delivering ethical, citizen-centric governance. So this completes our the answer for model answer for yesterday's question. Now let us take one case study which we will be answering tomorrow. So now what can be the case study? What is the case study which we are going to take up today? So now this is the case study. A Dalit woman dies due to denial of ambulance service. Locals claim casteist neglect. How do you address structural and ethical failures in this? I will read it again. As I told earlier also, what I am giving you is crux of the matter. Now, this can be explained. In a district, this happens, and as you are a district collector, so what will you take? What action you will take? All those things can be written. So it can be, this case study can be elaborated in half page also. But this is crux of the case study, and this is sufficient also to understand the whole thing and at least to frame the proper answer. So a Dalit woman dies due to denial of ambulance service. Locals claim casteist neglect. How do you address structural and ethical failures in this case? Now, this case study has to be answered in 250 words as usual, and model answer for this we will be providing to you tomorrow. So thanks a lot for today's watching today's video. Again, we will meet tomorrow with the model answer for this case study. So thank you one and all.